I'm already getting heated. We haven't even started, and I'm already like.
Welcome back, guys, to another Samurai Review video. This review video, we'll be reviewing Queen and Slim. It is a well-received movie.
It's already starting.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't been able to look at the camera this entire time.
It was a well-received movie between the two of us.
Between people with brains.
But we're going to get into the non-spoilers of this movie. I'll start it off. Anyway, so it was visually stunning, and cinematography-wise, it was very pleasing. I'd say it's the same as Moonlight, visually and cinematography-wise. The story was told. Basically, I feel like this movie is just an Oscar movie. Like it should. Yeah. It needs to be either. It's either Best Picture or should be a nominee for Best Picture. It's very comparable to that movie, and because of that, I did really enjoy Moonlight as well. I'm going to give this movie an 8.5. I really wanted to give it a 9, but there were just some slow parts in there. Definitely the transitions when they're going from this one place to this other place, it just kind of left like this dead space, which happens to all movies. So probably the only negative thing I have for this movie were just those little dead spaces. Other than that, it brought me back to the scenes with their dialogue, their writing, and their dialogue in the scenes between Queen and Slim when they're talking. Like the acting in there is just it's just natural. It flowed really well as just like the story.
The growth of the relationship too was just like
it was
perfectly
paced. Spot on. Yeah, so this movie does a really great job of playing with the protagonist and the antagonist. We definitely get a clear view of like who the protagonists are of Queen and Slim, but any people around them, you kind of just saw like, are they really the bad person? But they're just doing their job. But they're not really that bad inside, and you kind of get their history or like their character in that scene as well when they're talking to Queen and Slim, and I really like that. And it's the same as it's the kind of the same gameplay you get with this animated movie we did review with Princess Mononoke, which kind of does the same thing. So it's on that same level, 8.5. Like I said, cops were portrayed in a negative and a positive way.
No, there's much more good cops in this movie than there's one bad cop in this entire movie. And all of the cops' problems later on in the movie stem from that one cop being bad.
Other extras we met in the movie, even like there's like this, we're introduced with this black kid, and I don't even know because he did a bad thing, but it was like he's just a little kid. It's a
product of
the
system. He doesn't know how to, like, he doesn't know what to do. He wants to be seen. He feels unheard. He feels unseen, and he doesn't know how to do that. And and he ends up being the problem that he's trying to fight. Yeah, there's so much nuance to this movie. It's so very much not black and white. Ironically. But it's very, very a ton of grays, and I love that.
We'll get into more depth of this movie and kind of just pointing out those details in the spoiler part of the review, which is coming out later on this week, so stay tuned for that. This movie really holds close to the just basically how modern people and just modern society kind of works, and it's so realistic to how I've seen people kind of talk and react to things.
So if you're not an African American person, you're not gonna 100% get this movie. You're just not. We understood because we have that sort of diversity in our lives, and we have people that can share those similar stories with us to help us understand, but we can never 100% understand the emotions and the, like, you know, the feelings that a lot of these characters had in this movie unless you're an African American person. And that's okay. And that's totally cool. But that's what this movie is for, to kind of show you that perspective on it. And it does it perfectly.
The one thing that really stuck out to me was just the writing, the dialogue in this movie.
Lena Waithe wrote like a freaking masterpiece.
Amazing job. This was a very impactful film. It touches you. You get a very clear vision of those characters, what the character wants, and then in the end you get what they need, which is a great character development story. And it's just overall, if you have that, it's a good story. So that's why I'm giving this an 8.5, and I'll touch on more in the spoilers because I can't really explain it.
Yeah, it's
because there's just so much details and so much stuff hidden or put into this scene.
It's so intricately put together. It's great. So this movie was my favorite movie of the year. We still have a couple weeks to go, but I can't see it getting beat at this point. I went into this movie and I was very, very adamant with myself because I tend to really like movies with this kind of message and themes and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna want to give it a 9, or I'm probably gonna want to give it a 10. I'm definitely gonna want to give it a 9. Do not do that, Brett. To really, really analyze critically this movie, really soak it in. Don't just go in there being like, I'm gonna give it a 10. It's gonna happen. So I go in there. And I'm watching it. And about 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh boy. I definitely can't give it below an 8. And then I get about an hour in, and I'm like, we're already at the 9. And then we get about an hour and a half to 2 hours in, and I'm like, I have to give it at least a 9.5. Like I feel like I'm cheating this movie at this point if I don't give it at least a 9.5. And then we get to the end, and I'm like, you take your 10 movie and get the down. It just made me so angry because it is almost everything I want in a movie, and it's frustrating, and because there is so much emotion that you feel throughout this movie. I don't think there was a 5-minute stretch in this movie where I was just watching. Like, I was so into every single moment of this movie. And it was so beautiful to watch too. Like, they play with colors in this movie. The director
play with angles.
Yeah, the way
just like
the dichotomy of
how
the characters.
Things are framed.
Yeah, he would be framed on like the right
this
side,
one corner and stuff, and it was
so creative and so it looked gorgeous. The landscapes was pretty. They definitely did some comparative work, and I pretty much the first thing I'm going to say as I start to explain why I do in fact give this movie a 10. Before I start explaining why I'm giving it a 10 is I'm going to say if you give this movie below a 7, I have the perfect place for you. I went on Zillow. There is a 2-bed, 2-bath condominium. It is in... It's not a great part of the neighborhood, but like there's a lot to do there. Some would say it's lit, and it's located in the darkest depths of hell, because that's where you should go. Because this movie, if you rate it below a 7, you just totally are not paying attention to movies. And I don't want to talk to you. Like, I just don't want to. I don't care for you at all. Yeah, whether it's, imagery, aesthetics, theme, cinematography, the acting, the directing, the writing, the
soundtrack,
dialogue, the soundtrack was. I'm gonna listen to that. Like when I get.
There was a mix of jazz, hip hop.
And it fit the mood of everything, and it just
when they're driving and they're having that dialogue scene, and then in the middle of it they just turn that off and then switch it to another one, and they're like, and you're just like, wow, like this is perfect. This is what I need. But what? No matter what it was, all of those you have to
you have to see the value in that. You have to be able to see like that was done so well. I don't care if you don't like the message. I do care if you don't like the message. Putting that aside for this point, it does not matter because all of that stuff was good enough to carry it to at least a 7 for you. Yep. And if you and the other 3 for me was clearly from just like the impact of the story itself and its societal implications.
The duality. There's this one part where it shows this point, and then it cuts to a different scene, and it's 2 completely different like moods, but they're working together hand in hand, like on top of each other, and it tells like this overall story, and that
it's the way it's the best parts and the worst parts of the situation that has.
The way it's told, it blew my mind.
That's the one scene where I was like, I can see if you don't get that. But there is beauty and like creativity. That's one scene. And I think people should look into that a little bit more if they're not understanding it, which we'll talk about in the spoilers. But so I think one of the other most impressive parts of this movie is the fact that all the characters are realistically endearing. You like some part of every character that you meet, some part of them, but they don't come without flaws either, because they're human beings and they're complex, and they show you that in such a short amount of time. They show you like all these different ideas going on in their heads through their actions and their moods and the music even. I think our spoiler review, when we get to it, is going to be very short just because like I think the only way to fully I don't think specifically us are not going to be able to explain this movie in its fullest potential, but like I think this movie is so nuanced that you have to just go see it. Like you just have to watch it to understand, especially if you don't agree with the messaging, because I think this will show you a different side of it that you haven't seen before. And even if you do agree with the messaging, like I think this is one of those moments where it shows you to value life and not always feel like you have to be fighting for something, and really enjoy, like go out and find love. Like don't spend your entire life searching for injustice. Go search for the things that make you happy and make life worth living. And that doesn't mean ignore injustices. Like that's definitely not what it was saying, but it's definitely trying to say that you need to go and you don't let the injustices of this world stop you from enjoying the good parts of it. And that's specifically in line with the female main character in this. They say their names like once in this movie. And I honestly don't even know which one's Queen and which one's Slim. I guess she would be Queen, but like there's no, they don't really say like you're Queen, you're Slim. But they don't need to. They don't need to. It didn't matter. Because you loved them for the people that like they were showing you, not like who they told you they were. And yeah, I think Mononoke is a really good comparison in terms of antagonist, because in this movie, you do have a racist cop in the beginning. Like that's in the trailer. That's definitely part of it. It's clearly wrong. But I think the bigger antagonist to this movie is the system that it's talking about. Yeah. So it's not a person, it's a concept that is the antagonist to this movie, and it's what's enticing this fear and what's enticing this hatred and what's keeping people from feeling safe and loved.
And that also kind of ties in with a new movie that recently came out, Jojo Rabbit. Mm-hmm. It does the same thing.
Yeah. And Jojo Rabbit is definitely it's a lot more lighthearted, but similar messaging where it's just like it's not the people, it's the system and the concepts that are presented in that culture or society that is the actual villain. Yep. If we all like kind of go out and find love, there's none of that.
Yeah, I would like to say that. Yeah, I gave this an 8.5, but the same thing kind of with Jojo Rabbit is that if I were to kind of go dive more into this and kind of learn.
Yeah, I watched a few interviews and I like heard the writer Lena Waithe talked about like what she was doing. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah, if I kind of get my hands on those and watch those and kind of get more into depth of and understanding this movie a little bit more, this movie will definitely go, like, the rating will go up.
Yeah, but it's pretty fresh out there. It's been out for a few days now.
Like with Jojo Rabbit, I rated an 8.5. That's probably going to go up.
We are doing in our spoiler, soon after this video is posted, we are going to do some re-rankings because we were talking and we were like, I don't know, I'd probably rate this a little differently. So to that point, we will get to
look for that.
Yeah.
This is the same thing, Queen and Slim. It's an 8.5 for me right now.
That's how Get Out was for me. When I got out of Get Out, I was like, that's an 8.5. And then I kept watching like Jordan Peele talk about certain scenes, and I was like, that's a 10. Yeah. That's amazing. So
I can only see it going up, honestly, from the way it's already kind of played out, and how like the story was told and visually, and it's an artistic movie, and that's why I'm saying it should either win Best Picture or at least be nominated.
Yeah,
for sure,
no doubt. So, if it's not nominated, there's gonna be riots. We gonna fight. Which was the point it was trying not to make too. Yeah. Yeah, it is a very pro life, like pro peace. No, it's not pro life. It's very pro peace. Pro like humanity. They do not. It is very not a black people versus white cops movie.
Nope.
It is not even a black person versus cop movie.
Nope.
It's so much more nuanced than that. And if you think that is what the conversation's about, then this is a perfect movie for you to see, because it is so much more than just blue and black. You know.
And if you're thinking it that way, you will never understand this movie. You're not going to like it.
You're not going to understand the world.
Yeah. So. And that's why there's a lot of these ratings that are pretty low, and we'll get into that in the spoiler part of it. But
not too much, because I will lose my mind.
Are you done with the...
I could go on. I could talk about this movie for probably like the rest of the day. But yes, we'll cut it out there.
We'll finish that here. And that concludes our non-spoiler.
The Samurai review for it was a 9.3, by the way. Best movie of the year. That's my pick for best movie of the year. We'll do that at the end of the year. We'll pick.
The thing, okay, so comparing this to Jojo Rabbit, the only reason why I'm giving Jojo Rabbit a little bit of a head over this movie is because it's a comedic movie, and comedies are really hard to do, and this just does a great job. So I gotta give a little bit more credit on.
If you're gonna pick a movie, Jojo Rabbit's probably the best one you could pick to put over
just like the comedy.
And Jojo Rabbit,
because it just worked. The
Jojo Rabbit is very close in ratings with this for me. So yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the spoilers.
Yeah,
for Queen and Slim, and we hope you have a good rest of your day. All right. Stay alive.
Please, don't say you're my legacy to anyone.